You see, the human heart is a landscape filled with ambiguity, and often, two people can feel the pull toward each other yet remain trapped in silence. The reasons are endless: fear, insecurity, pride, but the truth is simple. Nothing meaningful grows in the dark of hesitation. Recognition alone, the fleeting thought, the subtle glance, the quiet heartbeat that quickens at the presence of another, it is not enough. If you want the tension between mutual attraction to evolve into something real, you must act with intention. Awareness without action is like staring at a seed and expecting a tree to grow. It doesn't happen. The universe rewards clarity, not confusion. Notice the signals, the tiny shifts in tone, the lingering smiles, the eyes that refuse to look away. These are not accidents. Life has a way of whispering to us when there is alignment. But here is the challenge. Observation must not devolve into obsession. You must see the signals as data, as indicators, not as guarantees. The moment you begin to interpret silence as rejection or hesitation as disinterest, you are already surrendering your power. Strength lies in restraint, in careful assessment, and in the decision to confront uncertainty with courage. Courage is not an abstract concept. It is a practical tool. To feel, to want, to desire is insufficient without the backbone to act. People often confuse desire with love and admiration with connection. Yet without the willingness to speak, to reveal, to take the risk of exposure, nothing will shift. Fear will keep two people dancing in parallel lines, close but never converging. You must step forward, speak, admit, in the simplest terms, what you have recognized. The danger is not in failure, but in the long, empty regret of silence. Regret does not nurture growth, it corrodes the soul. Yet, before any words are spoken, you must master yourself. You must cultivate a presence that is compelling without demanding. Self-respect is magnetic, disciplined, attractive. Focused attention, not desperate longing, draws the other towards you. If you are scattered, anxious, or easily swayed by the imagined whims of another, you broadcast uncertainty. People sense it. What is unsteady repels. What is anchored invites pursuit. Before you can engage honestly with another, you must be honest with yourself. Know your values, maintain your boundaries, and demonstrate through your actions that you are a person of substance. Presence is louder than any confession. When the moment comes, communicate with brutal clarity. Avoid riddles, hints, or evasions. Speak the truth of what you feel, succinctly and without apology. The world does not reward hesitation. Ambiguity might seem safe, but it breeds anxiety, misinterpretation, and missed opportunity. There is a natural tension between attraction and fear. Lean into it. The acknowledgement of mutual interest does not weaken you, it reveals strength. People who understand this act with precision, balancing assertiveness with empathy. They understand that human connection is not a game of subtlety but a practice of integrity. And make no mistake, this is not about coercion, manipulation, or strategy. It is about honesty and courage in the face of vulnerability. There is no nobility in hiding your feelings to avoid discomfort. The discomfort is temporary, the missed chance is permanent. Life is measured not by the moments you played it safe, but by the moments you risked authenticity in pursuit of meaning. To shy away from expression is to deny yourself the opportunity for growth, for understanding, for genuine connection. Two people secretly liking each other is a situation ripe with potential, but only if both are willing to confront themselves and the reality of the moment. The secret cannot remain secret if it is to become something tangible. Action is required, not speculation. The energy that lingers in the unspoken can either fade into nothingness or ignite into a bond that is resilient and profound. The difference is entirely in your choice to act with integrity, to speak with clarity, and to meet fear with determination. Ultimately, this is about truth in observation, truth in action, and truth in communication. It is about recognizing that your life is finite, that hesitation can destroy opportunity, and that courage is not a feeling, but a discipline you cultivate each day. If two people like each other in silence, they are caught in the pull of potential. To transform that potential into reality requires acknowledgement, self-mastery, and decisive, honest engagement. Everything else, overthinking, second-guessing, waiting, is wasted energy. You cannot control the other person's response, but you can control your clarity, your presence, and your willingness to act. So, stop hiding. Stop rationalizing. Stop waiting for a perfect moment that will never arrive. Speak the truth. Show up fully. Demonstrate your worth through presence and courage. Let the silence break under the weight of clarity, and watch as what was secret begins to manifest. For life favors the brave, and connection rewards those who dare to align their inner reality with their outward action. Awareness of subtle signals is one of the most powerful tools a human being can develop. yet so few actually cultivate it. Life is a conversation in movement, in tone, in glance, in the smallest flicker of emotion that passes across a face. The world is constantly telling you things, but most people are too distracted, too careless, or too self-absorbed to notice. To be aware is not to guess, it is to see clearly, to read the patterns of behavior and intention with honesty and precision. There is no magic here, no mystical insight. There is only observation, interpretation, and the courage to respond. The first step toward mastery of life, toward mastery of relationship, toward mastery of opportunities, noticing what others do not. Subtle signals are everywhere. They appear in the tilt of a head, in a hesitation before words, in the way someone moves when they think no one is watching. They are not always loud, not always intentional, but they are truthful. Human beings cannot fully hide themselves, and our unconscious behavior betrays our desires, our discomforts, our intentions. To be aware of these signals is to gain access to truths that most people miss entirely. It requires patience, it requires stillness, and it requires the discipline to resist filling the silence with your own assumptions. The world is full of people interpreting noise as meaning, confusing projection with reality. Awareness is seeing without distortion. It is perceiving without desire to twist the facts to your own comfort. When two people are attracted to each other, much of what happens is unspoken. The glance held too long, the smile that lingers, the shift of posture toward another person. These are all signals that reveal inner states. But recognizing them is not the same as understanding them. Observation must be followed by interpretation, and interpretation must be guided by truth, not by fear or wishful thinking. Most people misread signals because they hope for something, because they are desperate for affirmation, because they confuse attention with desire. Awareness demands objectivity. It requires the courage to see the facts for what they are, even when they do not align with your hopes or expectations. Being attuned to subtle signals is also a form of power. It allows you to respond intelligently rather than react impulsively. Life is full of moments when timing and perception determine outcomes, and those who notice first, who read the cues most accurately, almost always gain the advantage. But this awareness is not a tool for manipulation. It is a tool for understanding. To see clearly is to act responsibly. To notice without understanding is useless. To notice and misinterpret is dangerous. Awareness must be coupled with reflection, with thought, with patience. It is a skill, a discipline, a form of intelligence as much as any book or lecture could ever teach. There is a paradox here. The more subtle signals you notice, the more you realize how little most people see. You begin to understand the vast majority of interactions occur in partial blindness, driven by habit, distraction, and emotion. Those who cultivate awareness gain not only insight into others, but insight into themselves. You see how your presence affects others, how your tone communicates before words are spoken, how your own unconscious patterns influence the perception of those around you. Awareness of subtle signals is as much self-knowledge as it is knowledge of the world. It forces you to confront your habits, your assumptions, your blind spots. It forces you to act with intentionality, because every microexpression, every gesture, every fleeting look matters more than most people realize. In practice, cultivating this awareness is neither complicated nor mystical. It is about paying attention. It is about listening not only to words but to the space between them. It is about observing patterns, not isolated events. It is about asking questions silently. What is happening here? What is being communicated without words? How do I know the difference between truth and wishful thinking? Awareness is built like any other skill, through discipline, through repetition, through commitment. It grows when you choose focus over distraction, observation over assumption, understanding over desire. The consequences of ignoring subtle signals are severe. Relationships falter, opportunities are lost, misunderstandings multiply. The world moves quickly, and most people are blind to the undercurrents that guide events. Those who are aware see the currents, feel the shifts, and respond with precision. They anticipate, they navigate, they act decisively. Life rewards those who notice. It rewards those who read the room, read the person, read the moment. Those who remain blind to subtle cues are buffeted by circumstance forever, reacting instead of directing, forever confused instead of informed. Awareness of subtle signals is not an abstract virtue. It is a practical necessity. It is a form of intelligence that separates those who stumble through life from those who move deliberately, who choose their path instead of being swept along. It is the difference between hesitation and decisive action, between misunderstanding and clarity, between isolation and connection. It transforms not only how you perceive others, but how you engage with the world, with people, with opportunity. Every glance, every gesture, every moment contains information. To ignore it is to live half-blind. To notice it is to take control of your destiny. So, cultivate this awareness. Pay attention to the smallest details. Read the unspoken language. Understand the context. Observe without bias, interpret without fear, and respond with courage. The subtle signals are there. The world is speaking constantly. The question is whether you will listen, whether you will notice, whether you will act. Life does not wait for those who are blind to its signs. Awareness is your edge. Awareness is your power. Awareness is your responsibility. Courage to act is the decisive factor between living a life of quiet frustration and a life of accomplishment. Too often, people believe that desire, thought, or planning alone will produce results. But the truth is that action is the only bridge between intention and reality. The world does not reward good ideas, careful reflection, or noble intentions. It rewards action, precise and fearless action taken in alignment with truth. To act is to risk failure, to step into uncertainty, to confront the unknown. But without this confrontation, nothing changes. Life favors the brave. Those willing to move forward when others hesitate. Those willing to bear the discomfort of exposure for the sake of progress. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in spite of fear. Every meaningful achievement begins with a moment of decision, a moment when the mind weighs risk against opportunity, and the heart trembles in the face of uncertainty. Most people hesitate, waiting for the perfect conditions, the perfect moment, the perfect alignment of circumstances, yet perfection is an illusion. Life is messy, unpredictable, and often unforgiving. Waiting for guarantees guarantees nothing. Courage requires you to embrace imperfection, to acknowledge risk, and to act anyway. It requires the discipline to move forward even when the path is unclear, when the outcome is uncertain, when the stakes are high. The brave do not wait for the world to become safe. They move because the alternative is stagnation, regret, and wasted potential. To act courageously, one must confront fear directly. Fear is the mind's way of signaling uncertainty, danger, and vulnerability. It is not inherently bad. It is a compass pointing to where growth is possible. Every time you feel hesitation, every time your pulse quickens, every time you imagine what could go wrong, you are standing on the edge of possibility. Most people retreat. They tell themselves it is too risky, too inconvenient, too much trouble. The courageous do the opposite. They feel the fear, acknowledge it, and step forward anyway. They understand that failure is temporary but regret is permanent. They understand that hesitation corrodes momentum, while decisive action generates energy, clarity, and opportunity. Courage to act is not about recklessness. It is about calculated risk and disciplined execution. It is about evaluating reality, acknowledging danger, and still choosing the path that leads to growth. The world is full of people frozen by indecision, paralyzed by doubt, trapped in cycles of overthinking. They measure risks endlessly but never measure the cost of inaction. Every moment spent hesitating is an opportunity lost, a moment in which life passes by while you remain stagnant. Courage is the antidote to paralysis. It is the willingness to commit, to take responsibility for your choices, and to accept the consequences without complaint. The brave do not demand guarantees, they create results. Action requires clarity of purpose. You cannot act effectively if you do not know what you want, if you do not understand your values, if you do not recognize your responsibilities. Courage without direction is just chaos. Fearlessness without purpose is reckless. To act is to act with intention, to align your energy with your goals, to make every movement deliberate. This is where courage intersects with discipline. The act itself is not enough. It must be guided by vision and sustained by focus. The moment you act, you enter a feedback loop with reality. You see the results of your choices, learn from them, adjust, and move forward. Without action, knowledge remains theoretical, potential remains dormant, and life remains unrealized. The courage to act is also a moral imperative. It is not enough to recognize what is right, what is possible, what is necessary. To sit idle in the face of injustice, opportunity, or responsibilities to fail oneself and the world. Courage demands that you step into the arena, even when you are unsure, even when the outcome is not guaranteed, even when others doubt you. History is built by those who dared, not by those who hesitated. Progress belongs to the courageous, to those willing to act when the majority waits for safety, convenience, or certainty. Every time you take courageous action, you expand the range of what is possible. Every bold decision reinforces confidence. Every confrontation with uncertainty strengthens resilience. Every act of commitment builds momentum. Action is cumulative. Hesitation is corrosive. Courage to act is not an occasional choice. It is a habit, a way of engaging with life that transforms possibility into reality. The brave understand that inaction is a trap disguised as prudence. They understand that life is a series of moments, and each moment is an opportunity to assert control, to demonstrate integrity, to achieve something meaningful. So, recognize the signals, understand the stakes, and step forward. Act decisively when others hesitate. Speak boldly when others remain silent. Take responsibility when others look away. Courage is the engine of growth, the spark that ignites potential, the force that transforms thought into reality. The world does not bend to the timid, to the hesitant, to those who wait for certainty. It rewards the bold, the persistent, the disciplined, the relentless. To live fully, to achieve, to connect, to build, you must act. Not tomorrow, not when it feels right, not when the time is perfect. Now, step forward, make your move, speak your truth, take the risk. The universe respects action. The brave shape their destiny. The hesitant remain in the shadows of possibility. Courage to act is not optional, it is essential. Life demands it. Growth demands it. You demand it of yourself. Move. Self-mastery and presence are the foundation of influence, connection, and personal power. Most people misunderstand these concepts. They believe presence is about charisma, charm, or charm alone, and they think mastery is about controlling others or achieving external goals. In reality, presence is the result of self-mastery, and self-mastery is the discipline to align your mind, body, and actions with purpose and principle. It is the ability to remain calm in chaos, focused in distraction, and grounded when others are pulled by uncertainty. It is not learned overnight, and it is not granted by circumstance. It is forged in effort, practice, and relentless attention to self. The first step in self-mastery is awareness. You must know yourself with brutal honesty. Your habits, your fears, your desires, your strengths, and your weaknesses, these are the pieces that compose your character. Without understanding yourself, you cannot control yourself. You cannot project stability if you are internally unstable. You cannot command attention if your presence is fragmented by doubt or distraction. Awareness is the lens through which self-mastery is built. It is the recognition of patterns in your behavior, the acknowledgement of impulses, and the deliberate choice to act differently from instinct when instinct is destructive. Awareness is uncomfortable because it forces confrontation with truths we often prefer to ignore, yet it is necessary. Only by seeing clearly can you act deliberately. Discipline is the engine of self-mastery. It is the refusal to be controlled by fleeting emotions, temporary desire, or the opinions of others. Discipline means doing what is necessary even when it is difficult, when it is inconvenient, even when the world encourages complacency. It means setting standards for yourself and refusing to compromise them. The disciplined individual does not react impulsively. They respond deliberately. Their energy is directed, not scattered. Their attention is focused, not diverted. This discipline is not for show. It is for being. It builds internal strength that radiates outward. People sense it. A disciplined mind creates presence naturally because it is anchored in stability. Presence itself is not learned from mimicry, from tactics, or from superficial performance. It is the projection of internal strength into the external world. It is the quiet confidence that emerges when your identity, values, and actions are aligned. It is the ability to engage fully with the moment, with the person in front of you, and with the task at hand, without distraction or self-consciousness. Presence is compelling because it is authentic. People are drawn not to what is loud, flashy, or performative, but to what is grounded, steady, and real. You cannot manufacture presence. It is the byproduct of consistent self-mastery, repeated actions aligned with principle, and unshakable focus on what matters. Self-mastery and presence are inseparable. One cannot exist without the other. A person may have skill, knowledge, or talent, but without self-mastery, they are chaotic and unreliable. Without presence, their influence is weak and their impact limited. Conversely, someone who has cultivated self-mastery carries presence effortlessly. They command attention without demanding it. They draw respect without forcing it. Their calm, their confidence, their clarity create a magnetic field that others feel intuitively. Presence is not a tool for manipulation. It is a reflection of inner integrity. It communicates more truthfully than words ever could. To develop self-mastery, one must practice restraint. Not every impulse should be acted upon. Not every emotion should be expressed. Not every reaction should be immediate. Restraint is not suppression. It is choice. It is the decision to act in alignment with principle rather than instinct. The disciplined individual evaluates, reflects, and decides before moving. This creates presence because people sense the difference between someone who is controlled and deliberate and someone who is reactive and ungrounded. Presence is not about being dominant or loud. It is about being deliberate, being fully engaged, and being aware of the power of your own energy in every interaction. Self-mastery also demands responsibility. You cannot be present if you are distracted by excuses, blame, or avoidance. Presence requires ownership of your thoughts, your actions, and your consequences. It is not enough to be capable. You must be accountable. The world responds to accountability. People trust those who take responsibility for themselves and their choices. Presence is built on that trust. The moment you stop blaming others, stop rationalizing your failures, and take full ownership of your life, you step into a form of power few ever achieve. This is the core of self-mastery: to govern oneself with clarity, integrity, and courage. Finally, self-mastery and presence demand consistency. They are habits, not events. They are reinforced by daily practice, by deliberate effort, by the repetition of small but meaningful choices. Every disciplined action strengthens presence. Every moment of self-control, every choice to remain grounded under pressure, every commitment honored builds the magnetic force that draws people and opportunity toward you. Life rewards consistency. Chaos resists it, but persistence wins. The more consistently you cultivate self-mastery, the more naturally presence flows from you, and the more your life aligns with your values, your goals, and your potential. Self-mastery and presence are not about perfection, nor are they about domination. They are about alignment of thought, action, and energy. They are about showing up fully, grounded in principle, attentive to the moment, and deliberate in every choice. They are about creating a reality where your influence is undeniable, not because you demand it, but because you embody it. The disciplined, grounded, self-mastered individual does not chase attention, they command it. They do not seek validation, they generate respect. They do not react to circumstance, they shape it. If you commit to self-mastery, if you cultivate presence, you become the person the world cannot ignore. You become someone whose energy, clarity, and discipline create attraction, influence, and respect naturally. This is not about luck, opportunity, or charm. It is about effort, attention, and alignment. Self-mastery and presence are within your control. They are earned through focus, through discipline, through courage, and through relentless commitment to being who you are capable of being. Master yourself, command your presence, and watch as your world transforms. Truthful communication is one of the most underestimated skills in life, yet it is the foundation of influence, connection, and progress. People often confuse talking a lot with communicating effectively, thinking that charm, cleverness, or eloquence is enough. It is not. Words are not powerful because they are numerous or flashy. They are powerful because they are true, clear, and aligned with intent. The moment you begin to speak without honesty, without clarity, or without purpose, you erode trust, waste energy, and create confusion. Truthful communication demands courage because it exposes vulnerability, eliminates shortcuts, and refuses to hide behind ambiguity. Yet, it is the only way to forge real connection and meaningful results. Truthful communication begins with clarity of thought. You cannot speak truthfully if your mind is chaotic, if your intentions are unclear, or if your perception of reality is distorted. Clarity requires reflection, self-awareness, and the willingness to confront uncomfortable realities about yourself and the situation at hand. Most people avoid this step because it is difficult, but without it, communication becomes noise. To speak truthfully, you must know exactly what you want to convey, why it matters, and what outcome you are seeking. Words without intention are empty, gestures without alignment are meaningless, and communication without clarity is wasted energy. Once clarity is established, courage becomes essential. Speaking the truth often carries risk. People may misunderstand you, resist you, or react negatively. Fear tempts most people to hedge, to soften, to obscure, to say what is convenient rather than what is true. The courageous understand that discomfort is temporary, while deception and ambiguity are corrosive over time. The brave speak openly because they understand the value of transparency and the cost of silence. Truthful communication is not about pleasing others. It is about aligning your words with reality and your actions. It is about saying what needs to be said, even when it is uncomfortable, unpopular, or inconvenient. Truthful communication is also precise. Vagueness is the enemy of understanding. When people hide behind hints, indirect language, or euphemisms, they leave room for misinterpretation, doubt, and wasted effort. Clarity demands specificity. Say what you mean and mean what you say. Precision demonstrates respect for the listener and respect for the situation. It signals that you are fully engaged, fully responsible, and fully present. The moment you allow ambiguity to creep in, you relinquish control of the message, and the conversation can drift into confusion or manipulation. Truthful communication is a discipline of words where every statement carries purpose and integrity. Another dimension of truthful communication is alignment between words and actions. People instinctively detect inconsistency. You can speak beautifully, but if your behavior contradicts your words, your communication is nullified. Truth is reinforced by action. Presence, self-mastery, and courage all feed into communication because your words are only as strong as the reality that underpins them. To speak truthfully, you must first act truthfully, live truthfully, and embody the principles you articulate. Otherwise, communication becomes performance, and performance never builds trust. Truthful communication also demands listening. To speak truthfully, you must understand the reality of the other person, the situation, and the environment. Listening is not passive. It is active, disciplined, and focused. It requires patience and the courage to absorb information without judgment, without distortion, and without the need to immediately respond. Only by understanding can your words be relevant. Communication is a dialogue, not a monologue. Speaking truthfully is inseparable from listening truthfully because without comprehension, even honest words can fail to connect. Timing is another critical factor. Truthful communication requires discernment regarding when to speak and when to remain silent. Speaking too early can be as harmful as speaking too late. Words must meet the moment, not precede it. Part of courage in communication is knowing when to act decisively and when to wait strategically. Impulse without judgment creates confusion. Deliberation without action creates stagnation. Truthful communication strikes the balance between courage and patience, between clarity and timing. Finally, truthful communication builds freedom. Silence in the face of dishonesty, ambiguity, or unspoken truths is a trap. It generates anxiety, confusion, and misalignment. Speaking truthfully liberates both the speaker and the listener. It removes hidden agendas, it clarifies expectations, and it creates space for understanding, trust, and progress. The moment you embrace truthful communication, life becomes more direct, relationships become more resilient, and decisions become more informed. There is no substitute for truth. Deception, avoidance, and indirectness may provide short-term comfort, but they always carry long-term cost. Truthful communication is not optional. It is essential. It is the backbone of influence, the path to connection, and the engine of results. It requires clarity, courage, precision, alignment, listening, and timing. It is disciplined, deliberate, and fearless. It is the practice of speaking not to impress, not to manipulate, not to placate, but to convey reality and intention with integrity. It is the skill that separates those who live half-aware, half-understood lives from those who live fully, decisively, and meaningfully. So, speak truthfully, speak with clarity, speak with courage. Align your words with reality, your actions with your principles, and your presence with your intention. Eliminate ambiguity, embrace discomfort, and never compromise on honesty. Truthful communication is your bridge to understanding, to influence, and to freedom. Without it, connection falters, opportunity is wasted, and life slips through your fingers. With it, the world opens, doors align, and your power to create, lead, and impact becomes undeniable. Speak truthfully, and everything else falls into place.